Hello, everyone, and I'm so much happy welcoming you here in my YouTube channel. And thank you for coming back. Or if you're new, then I would suggest you to subscribe because we're discussing a lot about the audit, the second line, the first line, sometimes the first line, and of course the third line. Today I'm going to discuss about the most painful topic, and it is about the CFO buy-in, in particular the CFO, but you can also extrapolate it to any CXO. And this is based on my very painful experience. So this is something that I went through the pain and tears and all this kind of stuff. And if you can find yourself in what I'm saying, then just drop the note or leave your comment or put a like, then at least I would feel that, okay, I'm not alone in that room. So let's call it CXO or CFO pushback and why it happens. There are many different reasons all around, but today I would like to focus primarily to 3 reasons, right? I was about to say 2, but nevertheless, 3 reasons. So the first reasons it starts, in my personal opinion, just as a disclaimer, this is my personal opinion. If you are a CXO or CFO and watching now, then don't be offended. And sometimes we just need to listen to other people say and be open-minded. Yeah, CXO there, just be open-minded. So it starts with the education of the CFO. So if there are pushbacks, then I always think that this is all about the CFO education or CXO education. And as I already mentioned, the disclaimer, this is my personal opinion, and we are considering that the internal control specialist and whoever is responsible for the control design is very well equipped, understand the problem, knows what to do. And of course, no one is perfect, but with that disclaimer in mind, remember to go through this reasoning that I am sharing. So in my personal opinion, it starts with the education. So if the CFO is pushing back, that means there is a lack of understanding. It doesn't mean the person is uneducated. The person is not fluent in the risk, in the governance, in the controls. And that's okay. This shouldn't be the strongest side of CFO or CXO. Unless it is the chief risk officer, then it will be very interesting to hear. But that shouldn't be the stronger side. So I think we tend to reject or be very, very pushy and pushing back if we don't understand what it is talked about. And especially if it is the CFO in front of you, and those guys, they like to be likable and they like to know everything, right? I climbed that career ladder. I am on top of the chain, and someone is saying me that I really don't understand and I'm scared to ask. So then I will be pushing back. Sometimes it could be just this reason. Not sometimes, I feel it that it's many times the people tend to push back if they don't understand what the counterparty is talking about. Or we're talking in our jargon or using the language and lingua that no one can understand except the assurance professional. So in that case, please just make sure that you're offering your service of the training and education and awareness, that you're explaining in a very simple and plain wording and the language what we're talking about. And you're not trying to, jeopardize the image of the CFO saying, hello, sir, or ma'am, I think you don't understand what we're talking about. Of course, we're not talking like that, but we are slightly and very politely and kindly explaining what we meant and offering our services. So be bold, be proactive. I saw many times the CFO, they were saying themselves that, okay, guys, I don't understand what the heck you're talking about now. Just let me know. So, but if it is the hidden pushback, then and just sometimes the passive aggressive or active aggressive, just don't be shy to offer. then perhaps it will just release the tension in the room and, improve a little bit the quality of the air. So then the reason number 2, you don't have a clear mandate in the organization. So the governance, right, starts with the organizational setup. And we all know the international standards that the assurance professionals need to report to the appropriate bodies. But what I can see in general, especially the second line, is reported to the CFO or the CFO office, which is even worse. Those people has got the clear conflict of interest, right? But that's something that we will be talking about in the third. But let's start with the mandate. So you don't have a clear understanding that what you're doing there, what is your roles and responsibilities. And I always like to refer to RASI chart. So in general, the second line of defense, so if you're assurance or the third, I assume the third line of defense doesn't do the design. But nevertheless, if you need to have a clear mandate and understanding of where you are in this RASI chart, then you need to be clearly accountable where you need to be accountable and responsible where you need to be responsible. However, you cannot be accountable and responsible for the execution of the controls. That's a conceptually wrong. You can be responsible and accountable for the design, for the testing, etc., etc. In other cases, you are informed and consulted. But it should be clearly also defined that what is your mandate. If no one gives a piece of whatever, right, that what you are talking about, that no one is introducing you as a layer in the organization, then the CFO is also doesn't understand, and then or CXO, they don't understand, okay, is it really important in the organization? Is it something that it is embedded in the organizational layer? Is it our KPIs, right, etc., etc.? Of course, it could be the separate KPIs, but let's assume there is no KPIs. It's not the SOX environment, which is happening many times in the SOX environment. Then you need to have a clear mandate from your organization, from your supporting manager, from your board of directors, or whatever body that is overseeing you. In general, it should be audit committee or board of directors, right? So clearly define it, clearly speak up about this. If you don't speak up, then whatever you do would be jeopardized. Whatever you are trying to commit will be jeopardized. And then you will be in that bloody circle where you're trying to improve or do something and you're being blamed that the controls are not working, they are not rolling out, etc., etc. And then you're also hearing the pushbacks from the CXO or CFO office, right? So clear mandate is important. And the third, the last but not least, I already touched upon a little bit, but as I call it, CFO does have a conflict of interest in the organization, being responsible for the second line of defense. In general, yes, you could be disagreeing with me that the second line of defense could, or maybe sometimes should, report to the CFO. But my point is that it should be a clear cut, that where is the operational and where is the organizational and governance layer is. Because in major parts, and that's something that I faced myself many times, unfortunately, I don't learn, there's no lesson learned, right? Sometimes it's very difficult to process, to proceed, or to push forward, especially for the second line where, of course, it is prerogative of the CFO office, makes sense. But then, the CFO has got other KPIs and priorities, operational, balance sheet, P&L, financial statement. And when we don't have enough resources, or we have other reportings and other projects are ongoing, which is always, finance is always busy. especially by the end of the year, where especially we are so much responsible for the testing, designing, rolling out, and the attention is essential, then this one will be really, really one of the reasoning of the pushback. Because then those guys would be saying, okay, we have so much to do. We're closing the books. We are doing year end, quarter end, whatever end. Don't touch us. But you need to do your job. And at the end of the day, you are accountable and responsible. And it's even though you don't need to report to the audit committee or board of directors, your dignity is really much, jeopardized and touched in this case. So that's why be outspoken. We try to articulate that okay, we cannot change the organizational setup, and I get it. But what can we do? What I can do to make it better? How we can improve that I have a mandate, I have a correct organizational setup without changing my supervision under the CFO or CFO office. But you need to articulate that very much, and this is in your hands. So basically, that's what I wanted to say. And just to summarize what we discussed, that why CXO pushback happens. So the first, it starts with the education of the CFO. The CFO sometimes is pushing back when they don't understand what we're talking about. He's not fluent in the assurance world. Help, support, offer your help. The second, you don't have a clear mandate. Demand it, ask it. If you don't have it, leave this place. Find something that really would make sense. And I understand there are different perspectives. We can be so responsible for many things that we cannot just leave the work. But I'm just saying that just think about this. Try to fight for your own mandate. Then the third, CFO is having the clear conflict of interest, and he is kind of split between the operational responsibility of CFO and this assurance responsibility of CFO. And operational responsibility of CFO would be always winning in that case. So that's why everything else would be putting aside. Fight for this, explain that, bring it to the audit committee or whatever board of the directors committee is responsible. And if it's not solvable, then again, seek for better. You deserve better. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon.